What's going on? What's going on? This is another episode of Brothers. This brother talk. I'm coming to you on a Tuesday and kind of early, but that's because the national championship game was on yesterday. So just making up the show. Got better connection today. Last week was kind of crazy, but we got a few hosts of topics that we're going to talk about. Some we'll catch up from last week, but for the most part, we're going to talk about stuff that was going on this week. Hopefully, and I just want to tell anybody who gets on, checks out, interact. Just want to tell you thank you for checking it out. Thank you for getting on. Thank you for interacting. And hopefully you enjoy and like what I say. If not, who cares? Now I'm just playing. But hopefully, everything that I say is totally subjective and it's totally my opinion. So we're gonna jump right into things and we're gonna talk about the national title games. First, we're gonna talk about the women's national title game, which was Stanford versus Arizona. Turned out to be a really, really, really good game. It was kind of ugly for the most part, and I think it was not because neither team could play. I think that Arizona made Stanford play totally out of their character and not good in stretches. It was times that you would see Stanford feel like they was going to pull away because I felt like it was a more superior team, but Adia Barnes, she did a good job with this Arizona team. Ari McDonald was a great leader. She did things the right way. She led the team when they needed her. She stepped up big. Unfortunately, they come up short. Turn out that Stanford pulled out the win. The score was 54-53. And it came down to, some last plays, Ari McDonald, she missed a shot at the end. And I think that everybody in the gym, everybody in the world knew she was going to take that last shot. And Stanford did a good job of bottling her up and making her force that last second heave and further extending them on to win the national title. Can't say enough about Stanford's team. Haley Jones, she was tough. Like, I really watched her play, and she is going to be a beast. She ended up winning the most outstanding player, has 17 points, 8 rebounds, and she had some crucial plays down the stretch. The and one, she handles the ball. She did everything. I mean, it was just, a good game on her part. Stanford turned the ball uncharacteristically, but I feel like that was due to Arizona. Arizona made it tough for them. Like, they get after you. Like, those girls were in their face, making them do things that they didn't want to do. They didn't want to handle the ball. They didn't want to do any of that stuff. So, shout outs to Arizona for doing what they did. They just came up a little bit short. But, one team had to. And, unfortunately, it was them. But, Stanford, they pulled out the win. Congratulations to them. I enjoy watching it because you've seen a lot of good things in that game. But Ari McDonald, she is going to be a hell of a player. She didn't have a great shooting game. She was 5 for 21, but she hit shots when they counted. And and sometimes that's all that matters. Like, when you're a good player, unfortunately she had a bad game at the wrong time, but through it all, they were still there. Their defense kept them in games. Like, their defense kept them in this game. Like, it was just, to watch them get out of you and defend, it was just unbelievable. They turned that ball over like it was going out of style. But shout out to them. Shout out to Stanford for winning the national title. Next season is going to be a joy to look forward to, because you still have teams like the South Carolinas and the UConns that's going to come back full steam ahead to try to redeem themselves and and get back to their winning ways. And then we'll see what happens during the offseason. You got recruits coming in. you'll see, all that good stuff. The good thing about the women is, they go for 3-4 years, and they're going to be there. It won't be no one and dones, and all of that good stuff. But shout out to Stanford again. Arizona came up short, but I know it's disappointing to lose, and I'm not for those people just giving awards just because you played or whatever, but you still have to give a shout out to them just to let them know, y'all had a hell of a season. You just come up short. And I think Adia Barnes, if she does a good job recruiting, and it just shows you it was phenomenal to see a Black female and a woman of color to be able to coach in a national championship game. That's not too often, but it goes to show you, once you give somebody a chance, that makes a big difference in a lot of things. She got a chance, and her identity is all over this team. She gave them all type of confidence. The way she coached and the way they played, you could see they coincided. Her DNA is all over that team. So hopefully she'll come back strong next year, get us some more recruits, and continue to make this Arizona program better. And they'll compete with, the Stanfords and the UConns and the South Carolinas. So, just be another team to watch for and watch your dominance whenever it comes to women's basketball. And so we're going to move right along. We're going to move to the men's championship game that happened last night. And, I'll say this right here. Everybody's bracket was tore up. Everybody's bracket was messed up. But I did pick Baylor to win the national title. I got them in my pick to win. Me and my brother did a bracket and stuff together. The rest of my family didn't want to do it because they didn't watch too much basketball or whatever. So they were like, we're not going to do it or whatever. So me and him did it anyway. But to Gonzaga to be as dominant they were and undefeated all year long, they didn't stand a chance in that game last night at all. Baylor jumped on them from the start. This game was over with in the first half. They just went out there and dominated them. And I have a lot of people that check this out that's from Rayford, where I'm from. This is what it looked like to me. Baylor looked like the team that could play at Upchurch, and Gonzaga looked like the team that, those guys, we're not going to go to Upchurch. We're going to go over here outside to the back, and we're going to play in the basketball courts back there in the back, where it's only a few people that could play, because you had to be tough to play at Upchurch, but those guys look like guys that just went out there and, dominated on the defensive end, the offensive end, and they just weren't going to be denied. And it's almost like when they jumped on them from the start, Gonzaga was shook. They didn't know what hit them. And I don't know, if it was a hangover from that last second shot, the other game from the semifinal game, but that shouldn't carry over. You being undefeated all year, that doesn't mean anything, because in this NCAA tournament, it's a one and done type thing. And you get to the national championship game and you lay an egg like that. They lost 86-70. And truthfully, it was worse than that. They hit a three or something. It was almost a 20-point lead or more. Baylor just surely dominated them. Andre, I agree. Yeah, they were ready when they got out the bed yesterday. They really came to play. They took no prisoners last night. And let's see what Brian said. Brian said 16 offensive boards. Yes, that's one thing I will say, Brian. I that's something that I wasn't going to touch on because it slipped my mind, but we talked about this last night. It was saying, 16 offensive boards. That was crazy. They were already out shooting them because they were getting more shots. And 16 offensive boards just to give them more shots. It was just crazy. And to 16 defensive boards from Gonzaga. So they just totally dominated them. Like I said, at every aspect of the game, rebounding, scoring, defensively, offensively, it was just a total, outman situation. They were just completely outman. Jared Butler, he was the most outstanding player, had 22 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds. Jalen Suggs, respectfully for the Zags, he had 22 points. Yeah, TC, I agree. They got punked last night, and the story, that's what they did. Like I told you, I mean, it was this right here to me. Like, and they did look scared. I have to agree with you. They did look scared. This was Hope County versus Terry Sanford to me. That's what it was. Plain and simple. Back in my day whenever I was playing all that good stuff, that's what it was. So, shout out to Baylor for winning their first national championship in school history. It was just, great to see those guys because they had some sheer dogs on their team. Like, them boys weren't going to be denied. Like, from point guard to the big man, like they just did everything the right way. Like, and watching Gonzaga all year, it was a thing of beauty. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I love watching Gonzaga play because they moved the basketball, they shot the basketball well. They didn't just rely on threes, and they defended, they did everything. But at the end of the day, they just got manhandled. And it affected them from start to finish. When them guys jumped on them, like, was it like 9-0 or something like that? They didn't recover. And I don't know what happened, why they couldn't recover, but you being undefeated all year, you had been tested a few times. I mean, not to this magnitude because people slept on Baylor. I was able to watch Baylor because I'm over here in the Midwest, and they're part of the Big 12, and so I was able to see them play. And that's one reason why I picked them, because I felt like they had every aspect of the game. They had, the scoring, the defending. They could shoot the three. They had those bigs, that rebound and didn't care. And, Gonzaga had trouble defending their high pick and roll yesterday. And, TC, I agree. And that's what it was. It was all about effort. And, Gonzaga just, to me, laid down. And Mark Few looked over there like he didn't know what to do because, I mean, they were just getting manhandled. He just looked like he was confused as well. And so, that was Gonzaga's chance to win a national championship. That was a great chance for them to go undefeated and do something since Indiana had done it back in the 70s, and I'm not mistaken, when Isaiah Thomas them won it. I think that was a team. But I don't know how they recover from that, because you look at it mentally. You go undefeated and then you get to the national championship. Somebody had to lose. But the way they lost, that's my issue, is the way they lost. They lost in a magnitude that, like they shouldn't have been there. It was almost like they hadn't played against nobody all year and they just breezed through, and then they run up on a team that had played people, had better competition, and they just, outmanned them. As TC said, they just got punked. And so, shout out to Baylor, that first national championship, and they won it in style. Like, what a way to end their season. What a way to end the NCAA season with a great victory like that. Like I said, they won 86-70, and it was far worse than that. And if you go back and you look at the game, Baylor really, in my personal opinion, they should have won by about 30 points. I think at some point in time, Gonzaga made a few runs, and I think Baylor just took their foot off the gas and then realized, well, let me go ahead and step back on their throat again, and that's what it was. And so, it was tough watching, some of them guys from like, Suggs from Gonzaga cry off the court because, he gave it his all. Like, I felt like he went out there wanting to win, and I just feel like the rest of his team kind of, let him down or whatever. But I mean, he didn't have a great game, but 22 points, in a defeat against a good Baylor defense. I mean, that's respectable numbers. And again, shout out to Baylor, and shout out to Gonzaga too, because I mean, regardless of them losing the national championship game, that's a historical season that they had. And as I said in the women's, nobody wants to take more victories. At least I'm not into more victories, but you still have to tip your cap off to them because of what they did. That was just phenomenal. That was, to go undefeated and, unfortunately losing the national championship game. That's the way it is. You got to love the NCAA because the one and done, if you go out there and you play basketball at the right time, you play your best game, it's a possibility you can win the national championship. So, and we're going to move right along. We're going to stay in college basketball, and we're going to talk about Hubert Davis. Hubert Davis, black guy, black coach. He's been an assistant coach for UNC for 9 years. He got Roy Williams retires. He gets named the UNC coach for the Tar Heels. I'm from North Carolina. I root for the Tar Heels because it's either Carolina or Duke. And I'm not a Duke fan. I despise Duke. So it's Carolina for me. And for him to get this coaching position and be the first black guy to ever coach it at this college in this state, because a lot of people don't know the history of North Carolina and Tobacco Road and all that good stuff. It says a lot for them to go this direction. With that being said, I want to say congrats to him. And I've seen a lot of different comments from people here and there. I've seen some, Carolina fans congratulate him. I see some people, question the hire. And my thing is, at first I questioned it. I was like, I don't know if this is the thing, but this is what I say. If he's not given the chance, how will we ever know if he's the right choice or the wrong choice? Sometimes going in a different direction is good for programs. It's good because if you go in a different direction than what you've previously had, I mean, it could make things better. And one thing I will say, he has acknowledged that UNC basketball, the way it's played, has to be changed because basketball now has changed. It's not the way that Roy Williams coached it, where you had to play two bigs and, have everybody out and, you dump it down and play off of them. That's not basketball now. Like, unfortunately, it's changed. Some people don't like the change, but I'm not a big fan of how it is. But at the same time, I respect how it is. And so with that being said, he's already acknowledged that UNC has to change. They have to adapt to the new way of basketball. He's doing some things now because you had players that was in transfer protocol, and Walker Kessler, he's supposed to speak with him and re-recruiting him, hoping he can get him to stay. And Hubert Davis played basketball. He was a shooter. He knows the game of basketball. He's been an assistant for 9 years. And of course, he has to go with the head man's way. Just because you're an assistant coach with somebody doesn't mean that you're going to coach the same way they are, because you have your ways of doing things. They have their way of doing things. And I know he probably wanted stuff done differently, but ultimately it was really on Roy how they played these last few years. So he knows that he has to go out and recruit shooting. He knows that he has to change the way that they play. And so with that being said, that's the first step in the right direction to me. So Travis, you just said something. Let's see what you said. Travis said it was the right choice, but if he don't make it to the Sweet 16 in the next 2 years, he'll be gone. I get where you're coming from, Travis, but at the same time, he's a Carolina guy, and I think they know that he has to get his recruits in order to be able to get there. So, and he has to change the way they play. And that's not going to happen overnight, because you got to recruit. You got to, get your type of players and stuff in there. He's going to have raw recruits. So, I say they give him 3 years, 4 years. It's a brand new. Yep. We give him our own time. So, my thing is, if they just give him time to make things right, the way that he wants to play, the way he wants to coach, I think they'll be fine. I mean, they gave guys, I'm not even going to name the coaches they had after Dean Smith, opportunities after opportunities, and before they got Roy Williams, who built Carolina program back up. So Roy left it in good hands. I don't feel like he left it in great hands simply because of the way the players and the personnel that he has for the brand of basketball that Hubert Davis. I think that Hubert Davis wants to play and wants to, coach, and the type of players and stuff that he want to have. So at the end of the day, I think they will give him time. I hope they will give him time, because it can't be changed overnight. It can't be. So with this hire, I'm hoping that they give him the opportunity. I'm hoping that he proves all these naysayers wrong, because it's a lot of people out there that want to see him fail. That wasn't the choice that they wanted. I heard, from Brad Stevens to Mark Few and all that good stuff, proven coaches, but who's to say they was going to be the right choice for Carolina? And so let's see what Hubert Davis does before we decide if he's the right choice or the wrong choice. I'm praying that he's the right choice. I'm hoping that he does well and that he's successful and that he's able to get the recruits and everything that he wants. I think that he can do that because, one, he's a former player. Two, Carolina is one of the most prestigious schools, and you look at all the players and stuff that come from out of Carolina, the Jordans, the Perkins, the Worthies, the Rasheed Wallaces, the Jerry Stackhouses, the Vince Carters. If he get back to, building a good Carolina program, you'll see more Carolina NBA players as you did before. And the good thing is he learned from two good coaches. He played up under, if I'm not mistaken, I need to look to see if he played up under Dean Smith. I think he played up under Dean Smith. But and then he learned up under Roy Williams. So we'll see what happens. So I'm looking to see if he played up under Dean Smith. That's one thing I forgot to check and see. And so, yeah, and he was an assistant for Roy Williams. So, yeah, I remember him playing with Dean Smith. He did play with Dean Smith. Thank you, Sabrina. Yeah, he did. I should have looked at that before I looked it up. He did. I thought he did. I just wanted to be on the safe side because and Travis, that's what I was exactly getting ready to say. He got to recruit nationally. Like, he just can't stick to, the East Coast. He gotta like, if you look at what Dean Smith did, he recruited all over the place. And, one thing that I will say, and it's tradition for North Carolina, they got to get a good point guard and shooting. That's what they got to do. Like, Roy was more on, let me get some bigs and all that good stuff. That's not the way that basketball is now. I mean, unfortunately, big guys, if you want to play in the post, that's not going to get you to the league. The NBA is not looking for post players anymore. Everybody's shooting. You look at all the big men, they want to shoot threes. That's what it is. Roy wanted to play inside out. Yeah, Jeff Lobo and King Rice as possible assistants. Like, that's a good coaching staff, Brian. Like, if he get those guys, that will be big on his part. And then it goes, with what Travis said, he has to recruit nationally. If he doesn't recruit nationally, he's going to be in trouble. He got to use that North Carolina name. He got to use that Jordan brand that's on their logo. you got to use all that stuff to your advantage and go from there. So, hopefully Hubert Davis works out. I want to see him do well. I want to see him, get Carolina back to, the standards that they were. So we'll see what happens with Hubert Davis and Carolina. All right, so I'm going to move right along, and we're going to talk about some comments that Russell Westbrook made with Stephen A. Smith. So Russ had a crazy triple-double, which, that's been a theme for him over the last few years. He's been a triple-double machine. And Stephen A. Smith made some comments, said, he wasn't impressed with Russ's triple-double because he expect that from him. I was going to touch on this last week. And then Russ responded, said that it's not about winning rings and stuff for him. And, he's a champion every time he step on the court simply because, he came from the streets of, LA and, Long Beach and all that good stuff. And, and I get where he's coming from. And I get where Stephen A. is coming from, saying that, we know what you can do. Now it's time for you to win a championship. And with that being said, I've had this conversation with Russ before. He doesn't mind if he wins a championship. So I understood where he was coming from. But at the same time, he was like, if he wins one, he win one. He doesn't. Because at the end of the day, you have to look at where he come from, how he was recruited, and then how he got into the NBA. First of all, he wasn't recruited by a whole lot of people going to college. So, UCLA ended up recruiting him. That's something that UCLA does. They try to get their own from their own state. You don't let somebody get out of your state that, that has the possibility of being good. He wasn't, sought out, recruited like a lot of other players and stuff was. And then after that, to get to the NBA, he wasn't supposed to be as good as he was. He got drafted by the Oklahoma City Thunder, and, the rest is history. Like, he's played in NBA finals. He's won league MVP. The thing that, that he's lacking now is that, a lot of people say he's not the person that people want to play with. And I think it's more so because of his attitude. He has an old school mentality where it's either you're with me or you're against me. So if we're teammates, we're together. But if we're not teammates, then it's war. Like, I'm not your friend on the court. I talk to you off the court. Gene, a nice guy, but I completely understand what he's saying because he and I have had this conversation. And I completely understand that whenever you go out and you just don't set your sights on, I got to win a championship. Because if you look at it, there's a lot of great superstars that didn't win championships. From Karl Malone, John Stockton, Charles Barkley, just to name a few, that didn't win championships. And a lot of people will criticize these players now because they might not win a ring or something like that, but he's not out ring chasing. That's one thing he's not doing. Like, he ain't saying trade me from such and such because I want to go play with this person or that person, all that good stuff. And now that's a bad thing in some people's eyes now. And so, and I completely get what he's saying. And don't get me wrong, I completely get what Stephen A. is saying. But at the end of the day, some people's mindset is totally different from some of this generational stuff and what everybody thinks, like, oh, I gotta win a ring so you can consider me great. Yes, he's looking at it to the standpoint where I wasn't supposed to be here, but I'm here now. So I won because at the end of the day, I wasn't supposed to be here. That's what it is. And so that's the way he's looking at it. Will he win a ring? We don't know. With the team that he has now, no, he won't. He won't be competitive enough to win a ring or anything like that. But I get what he's saying because it makes sense to me, especially whenever you've heard it, you talked about it, you're able to ask questions about it and all that good stuff. It's not that he doesn't want to win one. Is that if he doesn't, then it's not going to make or break him. And that's what he's saying. And he's always been like, if I can help somebody off the court, he does so much off the court, from building libraries to having camps to, his Why Not Foundation, he does a lot. And so that's what he's all about. And I think that he uses basketball to be his grand prize to all of that. So he uses that as, this is my tool to do what I really, really, really want to do. And I can respect that. Do I wish he won a championship? Yes, I do. Am I going to criticize him because he doesn't? No, because I don't criticize the old guys who don't win championships, because I look at the whole totality of everything and say, sometimes you just weren't on good enough teams. Sometimes, people were better, and I'm looking at it as this right here. Whenever they played in the NBA Finals in 2011 against the Miami Heat, I mean, Russ Dillon was 21, 22, 23 years old, and the NBA wasn't ready for that. They weren't ready for that, so, and then their team broke up. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to knock him for, him using his champion status off the court, and because I get where he's coming from. And some of us will never get it because you think that, winning a championship is everything. But whenever you are not supposed to be in that situation and you won over the whole situation, then that's the way he's looking at it. And so I respect him for that. And I get what Stephen A is saying, because at the end of the day, I look at it kind of the same way. A lot of people say those are wasted calorie stats, like him getting triple doubles and, all that good stuff. Unfortunately, I mean, with him, that's his mentality. He's going to go out regardless if he's playing a good team or a bad team. He's going to give you his all, and he's going to do it unapologetically, and he's going to do it the Russ way. And that's with an attitude on the court, because ultimately, like I said, one of the nicest people that you ever meet in your life, but I get where he's coming from. And so, I think that some people might want to let off because it's not as serious. I don't think he's trying to deflect on his on the court mishaps from not winning championships when he's talking about that, especially whenever he's not trying to do that. He's just saying that I'm not supposed to be here. I wasn't supposed to be in college because I didn't get recruited. I wasn't supposed to be this great in the NBA because in college I wasn't recruited. I was just, somebody that they picked up along the way. And that's the way it is with him. And so we're going to leave that about Russ, and we're going to move right along. And we're going to talk about the Brooklyn Nets. And let's talk about the Nets for a little bit. I was going to touch on them last week, and because they picked up Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. And I'm going to just go ahead and say this, and I'm going to be quick about them because it's not a whole lot to talk about. They got KD, who's recovering for some type of injury, and it's been a while since he played. They got James Harden. He just got injured. He got a hamstring problem. They got Kyrie Irving, who you never know if he's going to take a hiatus and decide that he just don't want to play and take some days off. But then they picked up Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge off of waivers, and the team waived them. They signed the mid-level veterans, contracts. But people make it look like they getting the Blake Griffin from 6, 7, 8 years ago. No, you're getting a glorified role player in Blake Griffin. Then you get LaMarcus Aldridge. I've never been a fan of his, but you think you're getting LaMarcus Aldridge that was in Portland. No, you're getting two guys that are old. Blake Griffin dunked for the first time in when was it, 2 years? Like dunked for the first time in 2 years. Like, you know, I think you're getting two glorified role players, plain and simple. So don't make a big deal just because of names. Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge, they doing everything. Those guys are not the first best player, the second best player, third best player. Hell, they're not even the fourth best player. They're not even going to be the fourth option. Those guys are just glorified role players. Travis, you sick, man. You say he got 50 personal days. Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, he takes off when he wants to, man. Hey, Brian, I'm gonna tell you something. I didn't look at it that way, but that's exactly what he is. Blake is the Detroit Pistons Antonio McDyess. You are exactly right. You know, a guy who tore the league up whenever he first got there, had a couple of injuries, went to another team, different situation, and just didn't pan out to be the great player that he was before. And that's a great analogy, Brian. Like that, you know, I didn't look at it that way, but you say that, I think about it, Antonio McDyess. That's what Blake Griffin is. But at the same time, they just not. What are they gonna do? Like they not. Yeah, those guys will get open shots, but me personally, I felt like they should have waited for Drummond. But I mean, people say Drummond wanted to go to LA in the first place, but Drummond would have been somebody who got them extra possessions, you know, offensive rebounds. Blake Griffin ain't never been a great rebounder. I don't know if LaMarcus Aldridge ever been a great rebounder. Both of them have been glorified scorers, glorified superstars that, you know, just really were in situations where Blake Griffin was in LA with the Clippers, and Chris Paul got him a lot of money because he put him in the right situations. You know, he did a whole lot of dunking and all of that good stuff. LaMarcus Aldridge was in Portland, and if you're good enough, who can't be a star in Portland? Because nobody really wants to go to Portland. Nobody stays in Portland, and you see what happened. He left Portland. So, you know, and the guy's like 35, 36. Now I just feel like he went somewhere where he felt like he can get a ring. Let me just go there. And him and Blake Griffin may not have any type of impact on Brooklyn winning or losing. But if Brooklyn wins a championship, they're going to get a championship. I don't like that side of things, but let's everybody get off of, you're getting all these pieces and this, that, and the third. Those guys will not have a big impact on series. They might have impact on games, on a few games here and there, but they won't have impact on complete series, because if KD comes back healthy, James get over the hamstring, Kyrie has no more personal days, as Travis say, then those three are going to be the key to them winning. And then, you know, the Joe Harrises and the Jeff Greens and, you know, all of those guys, those role players is doing everything to keep them afloat while KD and stuff is out, because that's what's going to take Brooklyn over. And so I wish everybody would stop with the narrative that, they picking up all these players and we're not looking at the same players that was from back in the day. Like, no, those guys are not the guys of old. They're not. They are not the guys of old. So I wish we would stop this narrative and quit trying to say they're building super teams just to beat LeBron and all that good stuff, because, you know, that's a bunch of BS. That is a bunch of BS. Like, you know, y'all need to stop it. You know, kill that noise. Quit trying to change the narrative, because you're looking at names instead of looking at the way players are now today. Blake Griffin is a role player. LaMarcus Aldridge is a role player. They're not stars, plain and simple. It's that simple. I don't care what you say, how you say it, plain and simple. They are glorified role players now. In the story. You know, so you could talk about Brooklyn. and you can do all of that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, don't try to make it look like these guys have made this team that much better because they're the players of old, and it's not that way. So, we're gonna move right along. I'm gonna get off Brooklyn because I could talk about that for a little while, and I'm not really doing a whole lot of talking about NBA basketball because we got enough time to talk about that. But another thing that I want to talk about was the MLB moving the All-Star game out of ATL. That's the thing I want to talk about before I get to my final word. And so MLB moved the All-Star game out of Georgia simply because of the voting rights law. And a lot of people are quick to say that sports teams and sports leagues have to be careful about what they do whenever it comes to political stances and all that good stuff. But this is the way I see it. They move the All-Star game because this is what people don't realize. If they kept the All-Star game there, that's a whole lot of funds going to that city, that state, that that's funneled in that can continue to voter suppress or come up with laws to cause more voter suppression. This is not a political show. I don't want to get too political about it, but I have no issue with them moving it because if you don't agree with it, why would you help build a place that you got players that has families that live in that particular city or state that will be affected by this? I mean, at some point in time, we all have to stand up for what's right and what's wrong. You got to stand up for it. And that's what the MLB is doing. Like, people don't see it's a culture shift now. Things are changing. It's not like it was back in the day. You got, all of this stuff where, athletes shouldn't say nothing and, the leagues need to stay out of politics. But what people fail to realize is what makes you any different than the leagues or the players when you can talk about politics, you can talk about sports, and you can talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about, but they can't. And MLB moving the All-Star game, I have no issues with. Because if they don't agree with something and they don't want to funnel money into something that will help that cause that they don't agree with, then why have it there? Because at the end of the day, whenever these leagues who have been run by predominantly whites are seeing what's going on and they don't want to be a part of it, that should tell us something, that times are changing and it's time for a change. And I completely respect what they've done. Am I getting into the voter law or whatever? No, I hope that it's able to change and all that good stuff. I'm talking about sports and MLB. I like what they're doing. If you don't want to be a part of that, don't want to be a part of that cause, then move right along. And MLB moving out of All-Star game out of Atlanta and moving out of Georgia, that's going to hurt their economy. And at the end of the day, whenever you want to make a point, take away somebody's money and see what happens. You take away that money, you will see change happen whenever you move that money and take it somewhere else where somebody else can benefit from it. And you will see, because All-Star games generate a lot of revenues in these particular cities and particular states. They play a big part in making money for these places. So, and I'm not going to stay on that long. I just want to touch on it just a second and say I like what MLB is doing. Shout out to them. A lot of people are not going to like it, but they going to survive regardless if you try to boycott it or not, because they got owners with unlimited money, so they're not worried about anything. And so I'm going to finish off with my final word. And my final word is going to touch on something that I have seen and I have experienced whenever I coached and everything. Before I get on the agenda, I agree with them too. I agree with them. But I've coached high school, middle school, AAU, all that good stuff. And I've seen it a lot. You have parents coaching in the stands. And I have big issues with that because, one, whenever you take your child somewhere and they make a team and you put your trust in a coach to lead and guide your child, then I think you should leave that up to the coach. Whenever you have parents in the stands that the child is always looking up in the stands to them, they telling them everything to do, and they're not really paying attention to the coach, they're paying attention to their parent, that's where a lot of issues and stuff come in. Whenever I coached, I would have a parent meeting before we started practicing. And I would let parents know, if you want to be a coach, here go the whistle. You can come to practice, you can come run it. But if that's not something you plan on doing, I don't need you here trying to tell me what to do, trying to tell the kids what to do. And definitely in games, if you want to be yelling up there and telling them to shoot and what to do and not to run this and not to run that, then we're going to have issues, because I'm going to take your child and I'm going to sit them on the bench. End of story. And so these parent coaches need to stop this, because, one, it ruins kids to me. When you got parents all up in the stands telling them shoot this and do that and yelling and fussing when they don't do something that they felt like they should have done. I think it ruins kids. I think it hurts their game, because, one, if you don't let them make mistakes and learn from them, then you're going to have issues with that kid. If you don't let them learn how to make decisions for themselves, they get the ball and all they hear is such and such is open, shoot the ball, shoot, but they can't make decisions for themselves. And Brian, it's another, like we've talked about this, it has caused a lot of fights, more in AAU, between coaches and parents, because you have so many people that want to be coaches. They want to be, the coach, but don't want to put in the time. And like, you get mad. Like if I had to tell my sons this before, because one of them played college and he wanted to talk to me about his coach. And I told him, I said, that's your coach. I can't talk bad about, because I don't know everything, but you got to go talk to him, figure out where he's coming from, because that's your coach. I'm not going to sit up in the stands and tell you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, because I don't know what y'all doing in practice. Eventually, whenever he went and talked to that coach, his playing time increased. He got a better feel of, what was going to happen and how the coach wanted things, and it made him better as a player. I played for Richard one time, Aunt Janet, and he was the same way. I agree. And then my younger one, he played for me, and he would get mad with me sometimes. And, his mama knew, like, she would want to say stuff in games and stuff. And if he was supposed to take a shot and he didn't take it, yes. But for the most part, it was he did what was right. He sat beside me if he was on the bench at a particular time, because he was one of the brightest players, because he could see stuff that a lot of others couldn't see at a younger age, because he really watched the game. He would say such and such supposed to do this and do that, and he could see it. Whereas my older one, he was more where he felt like if he should do it, he should do it. That's the way it should be done. And we got in plenty of arguments about that. But then when he got in college, he started seeing more and more. He started understanding more and more. And he understood that, let me go talk to my coach. If you're not coaching me, yeah, I know you know basketball. I know we taught basketball. I know we played basketball. But your coach has to be the one that you have to clear this stuff up with. Because it would do him a disservice if I'm in the stands telling you what to do when that's not what he has drawn up. That's not what you have done in practice. So I think these parent coaches need to sit their butts down, because one is giving basketball a bad rap, especially in AAU. You can go to an AAU tournament and you can hear parents up in the stands telling their kids what to do, how to do it, when to do it. Mad with the coach because the coach not doing what they supposed to do, not what they wanted him to do. And it just really gets out of hand. And it's just ridiculous with the way that the culture has changed. And then parents, stop thinking these kids gonna be your meal ticket to get you somewhere else, because everybody's not going to make it. Less than 2% go to the NBA out of colleges, and that's Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, junior college, and God knows how many colleges we have, and that's including now you got they nationally recruiting. You getting guys from overseas now that's coming to play. So it's less than 2% to go to the league. Let these coaches coach these players, and then also be real with these kids. Quit telling them how good they are when they're really not, because they're not going to work on anything. My brother used to play, I'll never forget, Eric played for his senior year, he played Westover. They had a game. It was a good thing they did on Saturdays. Games normally on Tuesdays and Friday, but Westover and E. Smith would set up games where they played on Saturday. One of the brightest ideas they come up with, because nobody played on Saturday, everybody and their mama came to the game, so you got a packed house. Sometimes you had to turn people away. Everybody, that was just one game. And if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong, but I remember he had 28 points. And he had I think 10 rebounds and maybe 12 or 13 assists. I think he had a triple-double. I think he did, if I'm not mistaken. I think those were the stats. And he came to me after the game. They won the game. And he came to me after the game. Imagine now, he's a senior. And he said to me, "Man, you see that triple-double I got?" I said, "Yeah, I saw that triple-double. But what about them 2 or 3 turnovers that you had?" He's like, "Man, you ain't gonna cut me no slack, man. You ain't gonna praise me for my." I said, "Yeah, you had a good game, but you could have had more assists, or you could have had more rebounds or more points if you didn't turn the ball over in this situation. So if you cut that out, you have a clean game. Give me 28 points, 10 rebounds and 15 assists and no turnovers. Then me and you can talk." And later on, he was like, "Nah, I see where you coming from with all that stuff. It's not that I wasn't praising him. I just never wanted him to settle. My son, he had good games, and I would come to him telling, 'Yeah, you had a good game, but what about this?' Oh, but and I know I want you to put strings of games together. Like you play in tournaments, you play good this game, play bad next game, play good this game, play bad next game. Let's put good game together. So that way you'll have consistency." And it wasn't any gripe against them not being good. It's just I never wanted them to settle. And trust me, I was the same way with myself. If I played a game, I always looked at what I could have did in plays before. Like if I didn't turn the ball over, early during the game, this game wouldn't have been this close, or we wouldn't have lost this game. So I was the same way on myself. And I think that parents should stop, praising their kids like they're the next coming to Jesus, and start keeping them humble, because that will take them further, and that will take them a lot further than where they are going. Where they should be going is left up to you. if you're a little bit harder on them, make them understand that, you can't settle. Make them understand that just because you had this good game, you got to follow up with another good game. You can't be inconsistent and expect to make it to the next level. That's not what great players do. If you want to be great, this is what you have to do. And at the end of the day, if parents would stop the coaching in the stands, and I would get mine out the games or whatever. If they didn't play for me, I would get them out the games and be like, look, this is what you have to do. In this situation, this is what you have to do. I'm not going to undermine the coach because I feel like that's disrespectful. Like, I've coached and I feel like if somebody up in the stands trying to tell my players what to do and that's not what we designed and that's not what we went over, then I'm a little bit PO'd. And Brian, I agree with you. That's applicable in life in general. And like ours is that same. We make them see life in a different aspect, in a different way. Like you can't coddle them. You got to get them to understand that this is how it is. This is what it's going to be, and all that good stuff. Neil, you said your daughter never understood that. That's no matter how good you play, there's always more to strive for. And I totally agree with you. You have to strive for more. You have to put in more work. And like I said, with mine, my youngest, he was very knowledgeable of the game, very knowledgeable. The oldest, he real knowledgeable, but he was more stubborn and bullheaded because he felt like his way or no way. But at the end of the day, they both knew that I was going to be upfront with them, direct with them, and let them know, like, yeah, you should have took this shot. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. You could have done this better. But at the same time, I'm going to praise you. Hey, man, you did a good job on this right here. But I'm going to keep you humble because if I go at you and tell you how good you are all the time, at some point in time, you're going to plateau. You're going to stay at the same level. And like I always bring up my brother because I stayed on him harder than I stayed on a lot of people. Like I'm hard on people whenever it comes to sports. I was hard on myself. I was hard on my kids, but not as hard as on them just because it was just a different, day and age. And I was in college and Dip would give us off on Wednesdays. And luckily Eric would play on Wednesdays, whether it was, they were playing baseball, he playing basketball. I would just try to come home because Charlotte was about an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours away. And I would drive home to see him. And like one time I went home, he was playing with some of his friends and they were taking the ball from him. And I told him, I said, one time you used to be up here. Your friends used to be down here. I said, now it's this right here. You done come down to their level. I said, if you want to, because he used to tell me, oh, I want to go to the NBA. If you want to go to the NBA, matter of fact, if your ass want to play in college, you better pick it up and you better stop, playing down the competition. And from that point on, he got a little bit better with understanding that because he used to play with the basketball all the time. And I would just own him. And he used to think that I was the hardest person. He didn't want to ride home with me. He didn't want to talk to me sometimes. But now he'll tell me now, yeah, I appreciate what you did. So instead of being parent coaches in the stands trying to tell your kids what to do and praising your kids, thinking that they're going to be the next Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, start humbling them and letting them see what they need to work on and quit making it be that, oh, well, you this good, you're better than this player. No, this player is better than you, plain and simple. And if you keep telling them that they're better than somebody else, they're going to think that, and they're not going to put in the work. I never approached basketball as I was better than somebody. Did I know it sometimes? Yes. But it was a lot of people that they said were better than me. And I kept that in the back of my head. So whenever I played them, I knew what time it was. I knew what I was going to do. And if we ever played in tournaments or, summer leagues, or if I ever got to watch that person play, I studied their game. So I knew what they do because I wanted to guard them because I knew they were going to have to guard me too. And I was going to try to get in the business and limit everything that they did. So stop being parent coaches and let coaches coach your players. If you trust that coach and you put them on that team, if you put them on that team, evidently you trust them. So let that coach do the coaching so your kids will understand that you're not going to always be there to tell them. Let them learn how to make decisions for themselves. Let them learn how to make mistakes on the basketball court so they know not to do it again versus, oh, my dad and my mom is telling me this. And, when they're not there, how am I going to react to it? And stop and humble these kids. Make them humble. Make them stay humble. Make them stay hungry for wanting to get better. If you do that, that will take them so much further in life in general. And so that being said, that's my final word. And I just want to tell everybody who interacted, everybody who came on, everybody who watched and will watch later, I appreciate you checking it out. I'll be back next Monday, regular time, 7:30 Central Standard Time, 8 Eastern, my regular time. I have a host of other things to talk about. And I just want to say, everybody have a good night. And wait a minute, Jay, before I go, let me see something real quick. It was my 10th grade year. I remember you coming out of practice and may just let you run out of practice. It had me questioning if I really wanted to play basketball. Laugh out loud. That's how hard and intense you were. Didn't understand it then. I mean, honestly, I would. And I'm going to go. That's just my mentality. I was like that with myself. I was like that in practice. Just imagine playing with me. So, it could have been hell. Ask some of my teammates. And I learned from other people. Like I learned from my cousin Terrell McIntyre. I learned from my daddy G-Man. I learned from all his friends, Mr. Blue, Mr. Callan. I just got that old school mentality. So, and Majors is another one. Like, is hard nosed, be real about everything, but be humble at the same time. And I'm glad that I could help you out along the way. Latrosky, steel sharpens steels. You're right about that, brother. But hey, look, everybody have a good night. Until next time, I see you guys next week. Same time, same place. We'll holler at you guys.